when there's no more room in hell.
The dead will start a podcast.
No, people's movies aren't their lives.
Love dead, hate living.
We have an arrangement. Don't pretend you won, Herr Doctor. I know you. Why him, you monster? Why not the script girl? The script girl. I'll eat her later. No, you will not. Our bargain. You agreed not to hurt my people.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to No More Room in Hell number 53. This is Mike, and joining me, as always, it's Mr. Venom. How's it going, Venom?
Greetings and salutations, docudrama fans. Yeah, I'm doing pretty well, Mike. Getting ready for another Friday night of poker, so I figured let's go ahead and talk about some non-horror films for once on No More Room in Hell. So I'm excited.
Yeah, it's interesting. The picks, how they kind of orbit in genre, but not quite a horror themselves. But we'll get into that more later. Also with us, as always, it's Derek. What's up, Derek? How goes it?
I'll eat her later.
The unforgettable line from the trailer. Yeah. So I just want to make a quick note to start off the show. With all the relationships we're forming, the community is always expanding, and we lost like an extended member of the community. For those familiar with the Teapots podcast, Duncan runs, his really good pal and a huge contributor to Teapots, Baz, unfortunately passed away. I believe Duncan said it was like a motorcycle accident or something, and yeah, horrible news. Nothing anyone wants to hear, especially friends and family of Baz. I knew him kind of indirectly, obviously because we both participated in the same shows from time to time. Obviously he was a much bigger part. I just guested once in a while, summer series and a few other things over the years, but I think anytime someone from the community, that's at least notable, that announcement is made, just kind of acknowledging that. And it kind of got me on the, like, I started thinking more like, Venom, me, I would say like to varying degrees, obviously, but a lot of the people in our peer group, we're kind of getting to that age where like, it's like I'm not expecting to wake up and hear the news about any one of us, and I don't mean on this specific podcast, but just in our kind of general peer group. It's not necessarily that you're expecting it, but we're kind of hitting the wouldn't be 100% surprised if like age,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's a testament to how long like some of us have been podcasting. How I when I started, I was in my late 20s, and obviously I've had flows. Like I've gone, there's probably been like a year or two there where I either really slowed down on it or just stopped temporarily, but pretty much in some form or fashion, I've been doing this since my late 20s. I'm in my early 40s now. I don't see myself like completely stopping anytime soon, but it kind of hit, like when you stop to think about it, it's like if we, along with like other members in our community in the same age range, if we like continue to do this another 10, 15 years, it's like that, it's almost going to be a new phenomenon of like people that you primarily know through the podcasting community versus like in real life.
You calling me old, fucker?
Not you specifically, but just all of us.
Because I don't 15 years.
I'm the youngest one here, Mike. God damn it! What the fuck?
No,
Yeah.
but I mean, in all seriousness, I never really got to work with Boz. I know the voice. I've obviously listened to him, multiple times over the years. I just never got the opportunity to work with him. But obviously, he's a beloved member of the Teapots family and Legion podcasts in general. So obviously, a big rest in peace to our friend.
Yeah, same as like I didn't really talk to him per se, like on the internet. Like we had like a few comments here and there, and they always made some funny fucking comments because I remember this is fucking crazy because like a few weeks ago, like he was talking about like how the Ahsoka show ripped off a character that he created, which would star him. with the Ray Stevenson evil Sith in that show that they showed in the trailer.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I did get to record with him once, which was kind of a pleasure to say at least. It was a funny like thing that we did on the Legion podcast YouTube back in the day when Bo did like those round tables, and it was like gateway horror movies. It was pretty fucking funny. I was picking like Frankenweenie, and then they were just picking like random like other like hardcore horror movies and shit. I'm like, whoa. but yeah, it's just like I said, he was just fucking talking on Facebook like a few fucking weeks ago before like, and then all of a sudden, wow, it's fucking crazy. But God rest his soul, and hope his family and stuff are managing through the times. It sucks. I know how it feels to lose family members and stuff like that. So yeah, our hearts go out to them, and for the podcast, like I said, like memories are going to be in the podcast that are out there with his voice on them. And listen to him. He was a funny dude. Like he did like I forget what show it was. Like he did like I think there was a show he did record with fucking The Witch, with Obsessive Cinema, which was fucking a funny show because he picked like Time Walker as a movie, which is like this 80s Roger Corman produced like killer alien mummy movie. And it's fucking cheesy as all hell, and I actually bought that movie because of that show. But yeah, it's a shame. But yeah, it's crazy to think that one day you'd be making funny comments and laughing at the post with this guy, and the next minute they're gone. Like,
yeah, it's definitely like a different world now, because like I would say our parents' generation, the connections they make online are probably primarily like reconnecting with people they already knew in real life, like maybe old classmates or old friends. But it feels like our generation, we were kind of the first that we actually forged friendships and relationships exclusively with people online that we don't necessarily either know in real life, or we just don't get a chance to hang out because we don't live geographically anywhere close to each other. So now obviously the generations coming in behind us even more so than us, but it feels like we're the first generation that kind of started that, because we grew up, or if we didn't grow up from childhood, at least teenager or early 20s with the internet. So we kind of started with this and these podcasts. It's kind of weird to think that like people like in another 20-30 years, people are going to be listening to podcasts where the hosts aren't even around anymore. It's kind of morbid to think, but it is a reality of life. It's the same way these from 50-60 years ago that the entire cast and crew are no longer with us. So same kind of concept, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
let's talk about something happier.
Yeah, really. You're bringing me down.
Move on from that somber note. So with that, we'll go ahead and try to get caught up on what we're watching since the last episode. So Venom, I'll kick it to you first.
All right. Well, this is going to be a little bit of a shock, but I actually have no horror movies watched over the last few weeks other than the stuff that we've done on Fresh Cuts. I've just been kind of busy with other stuff. There's a lot of movement at my company, especially in solar, which is the department that I work in. I'm in the solar department. So anyway, the point is that I don't have a lot of movies watched, but I do still have some horror content to talk about. And the first one I'm going to talk about is going to be, actually, I'm going to cheat a little bit and I'm going to double up here. And what I'm going to talk about is some anime. I know a lot of people are probably groaning at this point, but I've been a lifelong fan of horror anime, and I'm still constantly discovering new anime that I absolutely love. So today I want to talk about the 2 different collections from Junji Ito. For those who don't know, Junji Ito is an artist, has a very popular manga in Japan, just potentially one of the premier horror manga. And there are currently 2 series that basically are trying to adapt his manga into basically animated segments in a horror anthology series. Now, if you have Netflix, then you have access to Junji Ito Maniac, which, it is on the American Netflix, so you can watch that one right now. And then if you happen to have Crunchyroll, which is the anime streaming app, which I do have, then the one there is called Junji Ito Korikushan, and Korikushan is just the Japanese word for collection. So it's basically the Junji Ito collection. Now, for those who aren't familiar with this guy, his manga is spectacular. It's all done in black and white, as most manga is, but they're such minimalist drawings that they come off as like very disturbing and off-putting at times. And unfortunately, I have to basically say that both of these series fail in reproducing that tension and creep factor that he has in his manga. I mean, if you get a chance, just look up some of his artwork online. It's literally just jaw-dropping at times, but so simplistic that it looks like a child could do it. But like I said, his writing is spectacular. Those of you familiar with the film Tomie, with the film series Tomie, he created Tomie. That was one of his short stories for manga. Mm-hmm. And in the Japanese series, the one on Crunchyroll, they actually do adapt Tomie. There's actually 3 or 4 episodes that involve her, that particular character. So if you're a fan of that movie series, then you'd probably be interested in the Crunchyroll series. Maniac, the one that's on Netflix, is a little Americanized, as is to be expected. But like I said, both series kind of fail in really reproducing the horror factor and some of his elements that he does in the manga. I still would recommend watching them because I haven't finished either season yet. But like I said, it's an anthology, so every episode is going to be a different story. Every now and again, there might be characters that kind of go back and forth between episodes. I mentioned Tomie in the Japanese series. Zoaichi, something like that, is the name of the kid, the recurring character in the American one. And he's not nearly as interesting, unfortunately. He's a creepy little fucker, but he's not nearly as interesting as Tomie as a character. So anyway, my point is, if you're a fan of Japanese manga, specifically Junji Ito's stuff, there are 2 series that you can check out. There's 1 season of each series currently available. To my knowledge, we are getting a 2nd season of the Japanese series, the one on Crunchyroll. I have heard nothing yet about the American series Maniac. So yeah, I would imagine Derek, being the only slight anime fan here, would be the only one who may have seen them, but I'm not sure. What do you think, Derek?
I actually haven't seen any of those shows, but I'm actually a huge Junji Ito fan.
Yeah.
He also did Uzumaki, which is
Spiral.
Spiral, fucking awesome. And I'm a huge fan of Tomie, as I'm going to show my camera for the people.
Oh, I love it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Nice.
Good stuff. And it's crazy because he actually, when the Japanese released The Lighthouse, he actually released with the release, it came with like an actual comic book version of the movie done by Junji Ito.
Nice. That's awesome. All right, who's next?
Me.
Go.
Well, I know how Mike loves me talking about superhero stuff, but since I've seen another superhero movie that I'm not gonna mention it because I know how Mike likes to troll posts about that movie.
Mike doesn't like fun.
I watched the movie Brightburn for the first time that I never actually got to see.
Wow.
Oh wow.
So cool.
Yeah, I seen bits and
How
pieces
how
of
did
it.
how did that? I was gonna say, how did that slip you like all this time?
I don't know. I don't
Is it
know.
just one of those movies you didn't see when it came out and it just kind of fell like between the cracks?
Yeah, like I seen clips of it and stuff. Like it was on, and I seen parts of it, but I never watched like the whole thing through. And
Oh,
yeah, good stuff.
Hmm.
Yeah, fucking like that whole scene where that fucking car, that car scene where that guy's jaw just falls off.
Oh,
I was like, I was not expecting the amount of like, oh, even though this is not like directed by James Gunn, it kind of has like that James Gunn aesthetic to it,
Absolutely.
because it's like his brother and his cousin wrote the screenplay and shit. But yeah, this is kind of cool. You get like little cameos here and there sprinkled throughout. Like that whole bar scene. I love the one of the because I didn't see this movie, but you see like Steve Agee is one of the guys at the bar with the dad
Yep.
and he went on to play like in the Suicide Squad movie, and and so that was kind of cool. You see like a little cameo by Michael Rooker at the very end, which also kind of connects this movie with another James Gunn movie, which is awesome. But yeah, I enjoyed it. It was like a good first time watch. I got the 4K. It was fucking looked gorgeous. Like all that red in that movie. I
Yeah.
love
Yeah, man, I absolutely adored that movie. I did not get to see it in theaters, unfortunately. I guess it just kind of slipped through the cracks, but I was able to see it before the end of that year. And it did almost make my top 10. It was like in the 12, 13 area, but that fucking movie was such a surprise. You never ever expect to see a superhero movie with that kind of gore, with that kind of tension and atmosphere. And I had heard at the time that this was kind of his fuck you to the MCU, because he had just gotten fired from the MCU, for a text that he or a tweet that he
like
did like
12
10
years
years
ago.
earlier. Yeah,
Yeah.
fucking something ridiculous. So he ends up getting fired from the MCU. He decides, well, fuck superhero movies. I'm gonna make the anti-superhero movie, and it's fucking brilliant. I absolutely loved it. And luckily, he did come back to the superhero genre. Obviously, he's back with the MCU for one movie before taking over now as the kind of the head of the DC universe now, which actually interests me a little bit. Now that he's going to be heading up DC, maybe they'll be putting out good movies now. Who knows?
Oh, can't wait till they announce Dave Bautista as Hugo Strange.
Oh, I'm waiting for Jason Momoa as Lobo.
Yes.
Jason Momoa fighting Santa Claus? Come on, that sells itself.
But, well, he's pretty much Lobo in that new fucking Fast and Furious movie.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
yeah, I've
Oh.
actually seen Brightburn. I saw it once, like when it first was available, and I thought it was good. I like the premise of basically an evil Superman prototype. Like, how would things turn out if someone had Superman's powers but wasn't like the ultimate good guy? And I thought it was pretty good, to be honest. So
It was
I was
damn
happy
good.
with it.
I thought his villain turn was so organic too. Like sometimes when you see somebody like in one of these movies that has a lot of powers and they go evil, it's some trivial, stupid crap that kind of turns them. In this one, literally everyone is against this kid. Once they figure out what he can do and the fact that nobody could stop him from doing anything he wants, it literally turns into a slasher almost. And that's just the brilliance of this movie. I mean, like Derek said, I mean, the gore in this is great. There are some great stalking scenes in here. The final scene of the movie is fucking awesome.
Yo, I love how this movie's it's like the Omen meets Superman.
Yes. Oh my god, I love it. Angry Superman. Hell yeah, dude. Any day.
And it just ends so dark, and like, that whole fucking thing with Elizabeth Banks at the end. I'm like, whoa!
Yeah,
I wasn't expecting
totally.
that.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, that final, well, maybe not the final scene, but that final scene with Elizabeth Banks. Holy shit. Yeah, definitely something you don't expect, but it like I said, just very poignant, and it makes sense in the kid's mind. Obviously as a movie viewer, we're yelling at the kid, no, they're not out to get you, blah blah blah. But ultimately, in a 12-year-old's head, a 12-year-old who is basically a god, he's going to see things differently than we do. So like I said, his villain turn is so organic. It makes so much sense, and that's one I wish we would have gotten a sequel for. We're not likely going to get one, at least not with James Gunn at the helm. But man, that would have been cool.
Yeah, and like even like the director of this movie, David, whatever the fuck his name is, it's like a Russian last name. He did that fucking Netflix movie Night Books, which was kind of
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
yeah, it was kind of cool.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, Jessica Jones is an evil witch that eats people.
So yeah, go see Brightburn if you haven't yet.
And Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
Yeah, unless your name is Mike.
Yeah.
And then you just don't like fun, so yeah, don't watch Marvel movies.
You hate anime.
Yeah, I've cut all fun out.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm kind of in a similar boat as Venom. I haven't seen a lot of horror movies I wasn't prepping for when it comes to shows, but one that I did, it's currently on Tubi, and it's called Trucks. And if
Oh boy.
yeah, if you're not familiar with this was purely like a curiosity watch that I threw on while I was working. And so basically this is a adaptation of the same story used for Maximum Drive, one of Venom's favorite Stephen King stories.
Who made
Yeah,
Actually, the story
problem
isn't bad, by the way. I actually read the story and I do enjoy it. It's the movie I have an issue with.
So
yes, so if you minus all the AC/DC, you minus the cocaine influence,
minus the secret David Lynch directed scene with the baseball field.
Yeah, if you remove the killer soda machine and replace it with a killer Tonka truck toy, you have Trucks. It's basically the same story, and it's it's definitely like low budget. It definitely feels made for TV. I have a feeling it was made for Canadian TV.
Sci-Fi Channel.
The cast, a lot more obscure, although there was I think one recognizable person in it. But yeah, it's a movie I'm probably not going to recommend unless you really loved Maximum Overdrive and you're like, wow, I'm dying to see another adaptation of that story, but kind of less ridiculous and absurd and just kind of not good. Check out Trucks at your own risk, I guess. Or if you just need something to throw on in the background. But have you guys seen this movie?
Unfortunately. Yep.
Hey, I like it better than Maximum Overdrive.
Wow.
Oh wow.
I know. I said, I have a personal thing with Maximum Overdrive. I can go on a 45-minute tirade right now about why that movie bothers me so much, but that's a discussion for another show.
But it has Gus.
Yeah, it also has Lisa Simpson yelling at me for no fucking reason.
Yeah, I'll admit, I wish she did get killed by Green Goblin.
Right?
Yeardley Smith.
Yeardley Smith. Ugh.
Yeah, that's one thing I fast forward when I watch that. He's right.
All right, well, I kept that one short then. So Venom, back to you.
All right. I'm going to do another twofer here because I'm going to be talking about these two movies on a guest spot coming up soon. And that is the original Resident Evil movies, the ones with Mila Jovovich, not the new Welcome to Raccoon City that came out a couple of years ago. But yeah, based specifically the first two. I watched the first two recently, and it kind of reiterates my love of the first one. Like, it supported the fact that, of the second one. Holy shit, I spoke out of my ass there. Of the second one, I love the second one. The second one, it definitely comes out as like a tropey 90s action movie, but the reason that I like it so much is because that's where the franchise realized what they actually wanted to be. If you remember the first Resident Evil movie, we didn't know if they wanted to make a horror movie, an action movie, a suspense thriller. Like, there were so many genres kind of mixed in. Yeah, exactly. Just way too much.
They're all gonna
and
die
with the second movie, they embraced the action. They basically said, okay, they don't abandon the horror necessarily, because obviously it's Resident Evil. It is a horror game. by nature. But they definitely embrace the action of the franchise. And I feel like the second one is where Resident Evil kind of got its legs, as a franchise anyway, as a film franchise. Despite the third one being potentially the worst one, it is, in my opinion. I know a lot of people agree with that, but despite that, the third one being kind of crappy, the second one started the trend of where Resident Evil would go. And like I said, I genuinely enjoyed that second one a little bit more than the first one, even though the first one technically has more monsters in it. The second one really only has one big monster, and then the zombies. Exactly, Nemesis. So yeah, I'm assuming you guys have seen at least one or both of these.
I've seen the whole franchise.
Yep, me too.
And part 5 is the worst in my opinion. But
Oh, is it? I'll have to rewatch it. It's been a long time.
All the clone bullshit. It's fucking annoying.
Oh, that was the one with all the Alices. Yeah, okay.
And they're the waste of Leon Kennedy. But yeah, I love Resident Evil too. I think it's one of my favorites too. The whole, like, it's crazy because the director of that movie, it's fucking Alexander Witt, I think, and this is like his only movie that he directed.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, because he's actually Ridley Scott's like action director. Like you'll see like his name on a bunch of Ridley Scott movies as like second unit action. Yeah. And, man, you could see like that Scott in there, like kind of some of the scenes kind of remind me of some of like Ridley Scott, like Gladiator and shit like that, like the aesthetic choices and shit.
Mm-hmm.
So and that scene where she fucking runs down that building, so iconic.
Exactly, yeah. I'm going to assume Mike hates these movies because he hates fun.
Resident Evil franchise. I mean, I liked probably like the first half of the franchise. The more it went on, my interest kind of started to fade. But I remember really liking like the first few. 2 might be my favorite of the ones I've seen.
My favorite part of 4 is when Pyramid Head guest stars from Silent Hill.
That's right.
I actually remember liking 1. It seemed like more than most people when it first came out, but it's been so long since I revisited it that could be modified by seeing it again. I think it's because the end of 1 feels so much like part of the second video game, the way she comes out into the street and the whole city's demolished, and the way the ending of 1 sets up what's to come next, I thought was so well done. And then 2, I remember thinking 2 was really strong. But
Gina Gilroy is Jill Valentine. Oh.
Even the black dude is comic relief. Like that dude is funny as hell. Yeah, that's great.
But I'm gonna have to
guy from the Mummies, fucking Carlos.
Revisit him coming up soon. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. You're on that series too. Okay.
Which one?
You guys will hear more about that later on. What me and Mike will be doing in a little bit.
Did you get Puppet Master 4?
Oh God, no. I think he said I'm doing Extinction. What number is that one?
That's the third one.
Third one.
Oh, third, yeah, which is from the director of Highlander.
That's the one in Vegas, yeah. I've only seen that the one time, and I remember walking out of the theater hating it. So I might have to revisit it. But yeah.
Yeah, I'd have to check my messages again. It just sounds like familiar. Extinction, but
you know what I like about Extinction? Fucking Lyndon Ashby's in it. Fucking Johnny Cage.
That's right.
Those are fucking $10,000 sunglasses, asshole.
Fucking Goro.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
All right.
All right, Derek, you're up.
Oh, me, yeah. We watched another movie that was one that I heard about for the longest time, but it was from the new, and they got it from Dread Central actually, but this bad Larry out. Oh boy. It's called The Lake. It's from Thailand. It is a giant monster movie.
Ooh, how is that? I've been wanting to see it.
It's pretty. The thing about it that I liked, it's pretty straightforward. It's kind of, but that's also what hurts it too, because it's kind of like a basic bitch monster movie in the sense of the story beats, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Venom
Yeah, yeah,
knows
yeah.
what I'm talking about.
Yep.
Yeah, and but the monster design's fucking awesome, and it's done by who do I forget the guy's name, but he worked on like Cloverfield and shit, and I think he's a sculptor. Yeah, and the monster looks fucking awesome, and it's a mixture of practical and CGI. Which I'm actually shocked how many fucking practical shots were in this movie because you really don't get them for these type of movies anymore, and it's fucking awesome in that sense. But yeah, it's kind of a basic bitch monster movie that kind of turns into Gorgo,
Ha!
you know, in the sense of the story beats, and it has like this weird fucking ending, which I think they're trying to set up for a sequel, but I'm not sure. But not the worst. It's kind of like middle, but it's worth a watch. It actually has some good moments and a good suspense. The scores. Another thing that threw me off because it's a Thailand movie. Fucking, it ends with like this weird like pop song. I'm like, what the fuck? You know. So
I mean, at least it's not a Hindi song and dance, you know.
Imagine. I mean,
Right.
they actually do have a creature feature from India that I want to check out called Creature.
Nice.
But yeah, the lake worth a watch. Is it the best? No, but I've seen a lot worse.
Nice. Yeah, I'm still waiting for an American release of that shit.
No, I got it. Yeah, Dread Central put it on Blu-ray.
Oh, did they? Oh, it's on physical. All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
I think it's on like the Rent too, like on Amazon, maybe.
Okay. I'll check it out.
All right. Well, I finally got around to watching that Winnie the Pooh slasher movie. Have you guys seen that?
No.
I loved it. I think I liked it so much because I was expecting absolute garbage. Like I figured it was going to be just the worst fucking thing ever, and I flat out enjoyed it. I don't care. I'll be that guy.
No,
Hey, I'm
I'll
the
be
guy
that
who
guy
liked the
too.
Banana
Like,
Splits movie.
I also like that one.
yeah, like it's hard for me to say the Winnie the Pooh movie was like legitimately good, but it was a lot better than I expected. Like I had fun with it. I like that they kept it pretty straightforward. They didn't try to like give too much of a convoluted story. They pretty much knew that, hey, this is a gimmick movie, so let's just stick to the gimmick, and that's how we'll win over some people in the audience. And for me, it worked for what it was. Like it's not going to be mistaken for any award-winning type movie, but if you hear that, hey, a Winnie the Pooh slasher movie's coming out, this is probably, or they're probably giving you what you would expect, and sometimes that's all you can ask for. So
honestly,
I was good.
Like I said, I was expecting a lot worse. I mean, I don't know what I was expecting, but I partially I was expecting that it was just going to be some guy in a Winnie the Pooh costume, or some other weird mutation that he just looks like a bear, so they call him Winnie or whatever. But the fact that Christopher Robin is in it, and like the first little bit of the story of the movie is actually kind of beat for beat the same as the original book, as the what was the name of that author? Shit, who wrote Winnie the Pooh?
How the fuck do I know?
I used to know. It's like anyway. Point is, I was the fact that it actually felt like it was actually in the 1,000 acre or the 100 or the 1,000 acre wood, whatever the name of the woods.
100 Acre Woods.
The 100 Acre Wood. I fucking just that whole intro. I absolutely adored how Winnie goes from this loving little bear to now a fucking psychomaniac. It worked for me. So just like the same with the Banana Splits movie and Willy's Wonderland, there's like a guilty pleasure factor to it that it really spoke to me. And like I said, when I see a horror movie based on Winnie the Pooh is coming out, of course I'm going to expect garbage. Why wouldn't I? But yeah, it was a flat out surprise. I really, really enjoyed it.
Oh, it would have been great though if they got Jim Cummins to do the voice. Oh, bother.
Yeah, I know they just released the teaser for Five Nights at Freddy, and people are saying that trailer actually looks good. So
yeah, those people that haven't
teaser.
seen, those people that didn't see Willy's Wonderland.
That's what I mean. I think they might have missed the boat a little bit. Willy's Wonderland might have kind of stolen a little bit of that thunder. I don't know. I mean, we'll see. Because now that we have Willy's Wonderland and we've kind of established the guy locked in a restaurant with animatronic villains, they've got something to work against. So it's like now we're all gonna be comparing it to Willy's Wonderland. And considering I fucking loved Willy's Wonderland, it's got an uphill battle, that's for sure.
And plus you have Nick Cage.
That's what I mean. Nick Cage as the fucking
guy.
Voiceless janitor. Ah, hell
They're gonna
yeah,
get
dude.
to play in the Blumhouse one. Fucking Justin Timberlake.
Oh wait, what?
I don't even know who's young and popular these days anymore. Venom. That's how bad it is.
I don't know. Zac Efron, maybe. I don't know.
Oh my God! Imagine.
Even he's in his 30s. I mean, we're all still. We're old. Sorry, folks.
I think it's back to you, Venom.
All right. So the last thing I'm going to talk about is something I know certain people probably aren't real big fans of. But yeah, I'm going to be talking about a video game. But at the very least, I'm going to be talking about the top horror video game out right now. It's only been out for a couple of weeks, and that is, of course, Dead Island 2.
Ooh.
I fucking love Dead Island. The thing is that Dead Island works for me because it's kind of a slower paced zombie game. It's a first person melee game. Even though there are guns in it, I wouldn't call it a first person shooter because mostly it's hand to hand combat, or well with weapons like blunt weapons and things like that. But Dead Island has always spoken to me, especially as a fan of the Romero, zombies, the slower moving, the Shamblers, if you will. Dead Island has always worked for me as a franchise, and Dead Island 2 is just more of the same. This is the third game in the franchise now after Dead Island and Dead Island Riptide. This game is over 10 years in the making. Dead Island Riptide, I believe, was like 2011 or 12. They had announced a true sequel, Dead Island 2, back in 2014. We even had a trailer for it. But then it got scrapped. It got picked up by a different developer. Then it got scrapped again. It eventually went through 3 different developers before Deep Silver finally picked it up and made what is a very solid game. Again, it's not going to be revolutionary. It's not Call of Duty Zombies by any stretch. Like I said, it's a much slower paced game. It's definitely not Left 4 Dead. Like Left 4 Dead would be the complete opposite of Dead Island, where it's just hordes of zombies and you're just, overcome with them. This one, it's a little bit slower paced. Most of the zombies are walkers. There's a couple of runners in there too, some of the specialized zombies. But where this game shines is in its gore system. This gore system is fucking amazing. If you hit a zombie in the face with an axe, you actually get an axe wound on the face, with flesh hanging off of it and blood. But then to counter that, if you hit them in the face with like a mallet, their jaw will literally fall off after a few hits. Like this gore system is amazing. I could not get over it. Like, this is easily the best gore I've ever seen in a video game. The way that these bodies just fly apart when you're using, specialized weapons, or the way that you can maim them and just kind of cut their legs off and then just make fun of them as they try to crawl towards you, whatever the case may be. It's a big game. I have already finished it, but that's just because I played it, like 5-6 hours every single night since it came out. Right now I'm at the post game. Where I'm just getting all the extra side quests that I didn't do during my first game. It's not a true open world game. There are actually 10 different areas in the game that you can kind of go back and forth to. Areas like Beverly Hills, Bel Air, Ocean Drive. Oh yeah, did I mention that the game takes place in LA? I may have forgotten to say that, but yeah, it takes place in a beautifully rendered LA, like the Santa Monica Pier is there, with the amusement park and everything. It's just so cool. So for somebody like me who actually lives in LA, and I'm a zombie fan, and I'm a Dead Island fan, this game just checks all the boxes. I mean, As of right now, this is my game of the year, and I honestly thought the Dead Space remake would kind of take that title, but I'm just having so much fun with this. There's 6 different characters that you can play with all different specialties and abilities. There is a skill tree system. RPG gamers are familiar with the skill tree. It works a little bit different than your standard like JRPG, but it's based more on cards. It's like a card system, but I can't say enough about this game. It's not going to change the world. It's not going to sell 10 million copies. It's just one of those games that really speaks to me and what I want to do in a zombie video game. So yeah, if anybody's ever played Dead Island, there's no reason you wouldn't like Dead Island 2. Obviously, it just came out, so it's still going to have a $70 price tag on it, but it's well worth it in my opinion. And I will play through all 6 characters just to kind of see, what the differences are. From what I understand, endings might be slightly different based on the character you pick. So yeah, I'm very excited, and I'm gonna be playing that for the next couple of months. So my horror movie numbers are definitely going to go down because I'm going to be killing zombies in LA.
Hell yeah.
How do you
That's it
compare
for me.
Dead Island 2 to like a Dying Light?
Dying Light's a little bit more action paced, oriented. It's a more of an action oriented game, right? That's the one with the parkour.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So that one is a lot more action oriented. This one, it's more about strategy. Like when you see a gang of zombies, they don't notice you right away, so you actually get like a few seconds to kind of come up with a game plan. Do you want to do a combination of grenades with a gun, or do you want to kind of go in with your most awesome melee weapon and just take them all out in one swing? There's definitely little options like that make the game enjoyable. Yeah, I mean, I can't say enough good things about it. Like I said, it's not revolutionary. It's not a 10 out of 10. I don't think, the gaming hordes are going to rush out to get this one, but for whatever it's worth, it works for Mr. Venom.
Does that have samurai swords in it?
Oh my God, samurai swords, ninja swords, those axe things that like ninjas use, the dual axes, like, dude,
Oh.
It's amazing.
Oh.
You can electrify these swords. You can imbue them with acid so they actually melt the flesh of the zombies when you hit them with the sword. Oh my God. It's so awesome. I'm talking up the game way more than I should, but just because I love it. I personally love it. I don't know how other people are going to feel about it.
Yeah, I'm going to get it eventually. I got a bunch of games, so I'm trying to go through those first, you know what I mean?
Exactly, yeah. I wanted to make sure I finished the Dead Space remake before I picked this one up, and I was able to, so nice.
Sweet. When are they going to remake Dino Crisis?
Why don't they give us a real Dino Crisis movie? I've been waiting for that for like 20 fucking years.
Yeah.
Like a
Well,
good
it's
one,
sort
like
of
a legit great Dino Crisis movie.
Yeah, it got bad reviews, but isn't that kind of like that 65?
Yeah, 65.
movie?
Yeah. Well, that's what everybody was saying. It's like, oh, this looks like Dino Crisis, but not nearly as good.
with Kylo Ren.
Yeah. Kylo Ren
I
needs to stay in a galaxy far, far away.
I played the first Dino Crisis when it first came out. I forgot, was the story about that we had like kind of Jurassic Park like clone dinosaurs, and that's like how they existed? I can't remember. It's been so
Yeah, I
damn
can't
long.
remember either. It's literally been like 20 years.
I just know
I would
they
assume so, because it didn't feel like it took place like in the past. It felt like you were running around in present day or like near future, so it had to have been like cloning.
Yeah, imagine a remake like with Resident Evil 4 fucking graphics.
Ooh.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, I was a big fan of the first Dead Island and Dying Light, so I probably am gonna eventually pick up Dead Island 2. I just have a handful of games I'm playing, so I just don't want to, especially right now because it's definitely.
What are you in the middle of, Mike?
So. I'm still playing
Dead Space?
Dead Space, Dead Cells, Castlevania. What else? I grabbed something because I keep getting games off the PlayStation Premium because you just get access every month to so many free games that it's like I'm starting to like compile them on the hard drive even though I don't have time to necessarily play them. Or it gives me a chance to just try stuff out to see if I like it, no harm, no foul.
Yeah.
but I just beat like a space shooter. So I've been putting in some game more than I'm like used to. Just finding like an hour here, an hour there to get in some gaming. Been playing new Super Mario Brothers Deluxe with the kids on the Switch. Overcooked 2 with the kids. So also so some of my gaming time also has to go to them. So
Yeah, I feel you.
yeah.
So it's me. Is that me now?
I think so. Yeah.
Yep.
Damn, how am I gonna follow up that? I finally watched Evil Dead Rise, everybody.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Did
Yay.
it rise to your expectations?
Yeah,
I
I
hate
really
Mike so much.
I liked it a lot, actually. Now I'm not gonna say it's like my favorite in the franchise. It's but I kind of like it's like a different approach to Evil Dead. It kind of has kind of like the more of the psychological stuff of the first movie, or like the Deadites and shit in it, which I kind of liked.
Uh-huh.
And it makes sense with the director, fucking Lee Cronin, who did like a Hole in the Ground, which we actually reviewed on fucking
Mm-hmm.
just the movies.
That's right.
God.
Love that movie.
Yeah, and and it's cool. And I love like the fucking reference that there's 3 books. It goes back to Army of Darkness and shit, where there's actually 3 Necronomicons there and shit like that. And I love that little touch and a little attention to detail and shit. And I just like it. It's a little bit different because we never, we always used to the cabin or Army of Darkness, but it's cool to see it like in like a different setting for once. And is it perfect? Some of the acting was kind of shaky for me in the movie with some of the characters, but other than that, I had fun with it. The fucking, especially that fucking giant mutant thing at the end. I love that.
That fucking Lovecraftian nightmare.
Yeah, I fucking loved that. That was awesome.
And how it got disposed of was cool. Yeah.
Wood chipper, yeah, it was a fun movie. I'm gonna watch it again probably after this because I own it on fucking Voodoo.
Nice. Yeah, obviously we talked about it on Fresh Cuts. That was a big anticipated episode for us. And ultimately, I think we all enjoyed it. We all kind of said the same things about it. Is it the best Evil Dead? No, not remotely. But considering how bad horror sequels can sometimes be, I thought this was really, really well done. This is also the second big horror franchise of the year to drastically change their setting. Obviously, Scream 6, took place in New York, as opposed to,
Woodsboro.
Woodsboro, thank you. And now here with the Evil Dead, we have an Evil Dead movie set in the city in a skyscraper as opposed to a cabin in the woods. I really enjoyed it. I thought they did both movies, honestly, but Evil Dead Rise specifically. I thought the performance of the mom was spectacular. I thought she was just so perfectly cast. Yeah. She had this perfect face where when she was human, she's just this gorgeous redhead, just beautiful cheekbones, like, statuesque almost. But then as a fucking deadite, she's fucking terrifying. She's got that big mouthful of teeth and something about those eyes, the way that her eyes are set. Perfect fucking casting. I couldn't get over, what a great deadite she made. And the shit that came out of her mouth, holy shit.
And the little daughter started throwing up fucking crawlies, and it was my favorite, like her, like when she's a deadite. I get to kick the crawlies out of my tummy. I'm like, what the fuck?
Oh man, mommy's with the maggots now.
Yeah, it's fucking great.
Yeah, the more I think about that movie, the more I actually enjoy it. Ultimately, it's a terrible thing to say because it is such a good movie. Ultimately, it's still going to be number 4 or 5 on my list of Evil Dead franchise movies. Just because the Evil Dead franchise really does speak to me. The first 2 movies are absolute classics. Army of Darkness, took a little bit of a left turn with the franchise, but it's still endlessly entertaining. Yeah, and
I'm not even Harryhausen,
Exactly. And then the remake, the 2013 remake, I fucking adore that movie. That movie is a 10 out of 10 to me, and no one will ever change my mind. That fucking movie is brilliant. So, I found myself referencing the 2013 remake a lot during the Fresh Cuts episode, only because it was the last Evil Dead movie. So, of course, there's going to be a little bit of the compare game. But ultimately, Rise is still an incredibly fun movie. And yeah, I'm right there with Derek. I'll probably buy it. That's definitely a buyer.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, I don't have much to add, as we talked about, and I pretty much share most of the same thoughts with Venom. I did like Evil Dead Rise. Good, not great, but definitely fun, and it definitely is gonna have rewatches. Like, it's an easy movie to watch. Like the style, very simple story to kind of get you into the action. And for the most part, Evil Dead movies, they have like that formula. A group of some sort stumble upon a Necronomicon, and the incantation is read at some point, and you know what comes next. And it doesn't
swallow your soul.
Yeah, if regardless of like what Evil Dead you like better than others, the one thing you can kind of hand it to this franchise, they've been able to pretty much keep the same formula throughout them. Obviously, Army of Darkness, as Venom mentioned, that's one that probably deviates the most, but it's still good in its own right. It's just different. But for the most part, anytime there's a sequel or a remake in this franchise, including like the show, they understand that fundamentally this is all you need to do for the setup, and then just go have fun the rest of the way through. And for the most part, they all deliver on the way. So
I nerded out hard when they brought back Dead by Dawn. Dead by Dawn.
Oh hell yeah. This is a franchise that honestly, more than Scream and Nev Campbell, more than Nightmare on Elm Street and Heather Langenkamp, this is a franchise that I thought would not be able to do a successful entry without their main star, Bruce Campbell. Evil Dead without Bruce Campbell, 20 years ago would have been like sacrilegious. But obviously, starting with the remake and then with Evil Dead Rise, they've done it twice. They've made two great Evil Dead movies without Bruce Campbell, and that's saying a lot. And the fact that he might be coming back too for another entry, years after he said he was done playing Ash, that's exciting to any horror fan.
Fuck yeah, I want to see him as Ash and Pizza Papa in the same movie.
Yeah, when it comes to this franchise, it's like never say never, because look at how long Evil Dead 3 or whatever was supposedly rumored. Then we got 3 seasons of the Ash vs. Evil Dead show, which I really, really liked. I never thought something like that would ever happen. So if Bruce Campbell is even saying a maybe about it, well, that gives me a little hope.
It would be crazy if they just connect all fucking 3 movie franchises into one movie.
I'm waiting for it, man. Bring back Bruce, Jane Levy, and
fucking
whatever survivor
Pablo,
from this movie.
I would like.
Pablo and Dana. Yeah, from the movie. It's almost too much now. Not from the movie, from the series, excuse me. But yeah, that's almost too much. Shit.
Oh.
It's gonna get cluttered.
And just having
I would love to see an Ash versus Evil Dead movie, though. I would have loved to have seen like a movie to just kind of close out that storyline. That would have been cool. Not that I have major problems with the final season. Not at all. I'm actually okay with how it ended. But I honestly thought, because of the popularity of that series, that we were going to get a movie. Like, Ash versus Evil Dead, The End, or something stupid like that. But no, it didn't happen. That's okay.
That would have been cool.
We're still getting Evil Dead movies, so I'm happy.
All right, I think it's back to me. Yeah, who's a fan of Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation? Nobody? All right, I guess we can move on to the next segment.
Mike watched Next Generation. Next topic.
Yeah,
McConaughey.
I did like McConaughey in it. I feel like McConaughey in a vacuum, or the character he plays in a vacuum, that could fit into a Texas Chainsaw Massacre family.
He's just playing the same character he plays in Sahara in this movie.
Yeah, more or less. Or he's just like the injured version of his character in Killer Joe.
Yeah. Killer Joe's the
like
more sophisticated version of this character.
Yeah, like the drugged out, injured robot leg version of the Killer Joe character. But yeah, this movie sucks. And like I always remember
When they
not
bring in
liking
the
it,
Illuminati.
but
Oh God.
yeah, and
Is
then
this the one with Renee
ending,
Zellweger?
Yes.
Yeah,
It is. Okay, yeah, this is awful.
it's the movie they supposedly like wanted buried because like they're like we don't
Oh.
want it to affect our career.
McConaughey got his Oscar. He's fine.
All right,
Yeah,
all
it
right,
didn't seem to
all
hurt
right.
either one of them, honestly.
No, not at all. Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, it was a pretty bad. And this one I think was trying to bill itself as a remake, not a sequel. So
Reboot.
and
Fail.
Requel.
yeah, this is like even like the Leatherface character in this is just not good. And
Oh, it's the worst.
Nope. Yep.
Yeah.
Awful.
no good, and I don't think anyone wants to talk about it any longer. So
That definitely tells you folks that Mike really hasn't been watching any movies because he brought Texas Chainsaw: The Next Generation to the table. Yeah.
yeah, I just been busy like prepping for other things, and then I went to get my notes for this episode, and I looked where I usually put in like all the because I would usually have more than 3 things on my list just in case I change my mind on what I actually want to bring up, and this time it was pretty bare bones. So I was like, all right, I have to bring up literally the only things that I watched this time.
Yeah. We'll have some better movies for you next time, folks.
Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 review coming soon.
That'll be just me and Derek though.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, as far as news goes, I was going to bring up that we're having streaming service consolidation, so I guess that's a win for physical media buyers because some of these streaming services are consolidating and dropping content, like original content. I'm sure it has to do with like the residuals that they don't want to pay people.
Licensing, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, licensing and all that, because a lot of it's like their own original programming, which people were like confused about at first, but it's like, yeah, because it sits there and every time it gets streamed they probably have to pay out. I would imagine it's not a ton, but it could vary show to show and actor to actor how much they agreed to pay out, but there's that going on. So physical media buyers for the win, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. And it's not like we're going to be getting any new content anytime soon with the writer's strike going on. So enjoy what you can get.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Yeah, I play poker with
Wow.
a couple of writers that are on strike out here, and yeah, they're not happy at all. And they're talking about this strike's going to be potentially longer than the one from 2007. So, yeah, we might not be getting new content very much for a while. At least not on TV.
Announced today, Winnie the Pooh sequel with Nick Cage.
I'm not sure the extent issues you have on them, but does the current and future role of AI play into like these breakdowns too at all?
For which? I'm sorry.
For like the writers, like I'm wondering if like
No. The major catalyst of the strike is streaming. Writers generally make a lot of money on syndication. When a TV show goes to syndication, that's when the writers really get a lot of money. But with streaming series, there is no syndication. They're just always there. If you want to watch Stranger Things season 1, it's right there on Netflix. You can go watch it. But the writers of Stranger Things season 1 don't get any extra money. So, I mean, there's multiple factors in this strike, but that's the big one. It's residuals for streaming.
Damn.
Yeah, I'm curious how that's going to get resolved because we already see how much it's kind of messed artists, like music artists, over like Spotify and how little they get per like stream. And I would imagine the studios want to hold firm because I think, not that I agree with the big studios argument at all, but I think what they're saying is like, oh, they probably are arguing that, well, we don't get nearly the same amount of revenue as we would from like advertisers on actual like, Dinosaur Legacy TV. So they're like, we can't pay it out. But then when you look at their profit margins, it's like, well, wait a minute, you're still raking in the money somehow. So it's going to be interesting, and I don't anticipate this being a short strike at all, and I Do they have like? Because I'm trying to think back at previous strikes or breakdowns. Are there potentially like scab writers that they would bring in to like
Oh yeah.
start writing other stuff? Yeah.
I know a scab writer too. For those who don't know, I live in Southern California, so a lot of the poker games I play at have like directors, producers, stars. Sometimes I've mentioned playing with like J.K. Simmons and guys like that multiple times. But yeah, the scab writers are coming out now. There's even talk right now because there were series that were canceled, but were completely written. Some Twin Peaks fans might remember that there was a third season of Twin Peaks on Showtime back in 2017. David Lynch and Mark Frost actually did write a fourth season. Like, it's already written and ready to go. And I've heard that if the writer's strike goes too long, they're going to start making stuff like that. Stuff that's already written that got scrapped or put on the shelf or whatever. So, yeah.
Yeah, I also saw a
Venom
story
just
yesterday
plays
today.
poker with Joe J and Jameson.
Yeah,
I saw a story yesterday. I don't remember what streaming service it is because I can't remember who the parent company who owns the properties. But supposedly there was an Alien versus Predator TV show that's already been filmed and it's done, but they just never released it.
Yeah, it's like an
I'm
animated one too.
Yeah, and I'm wondering like, okay, if this strike, because like I think Venom just alluded to, the longer the strike goes on, the more content they're going to need. So I'll be curious to see if there's like a lot of stuff we just don't know about that's sitting on the shelf that the streaming platforms would be like, okay, we're just going to start putting this stuff out so we can technically say, look, we're putting out new programming still. But I will admit that's one that I would want to see. I'd want to check it out at least,
Definitely, absolutely.
I didn't even know we were getting a new Alien movie too. It's fucking nuts.
Oh yeah,
Fetty Alvarez too.
Fetty, hell yeah, dude, I love Fetty.
Instead of raining blood, it's gonna be raining acid.
Yeah, Fetty is in my heart forever because of that Evil Dead remake. Absolutely.
Yo, it'd be awesome if they cross over with Don't Breathe.
Blind Deadites?
with the blind guy fucking hunting aliens.
Oh, aliens, I'm sorry. Blind. So who?
Yeah, like a Stephen Lang from Don't Breathe.
Stephen Lang and Michael Biehn together again.
That'd be amazing.
The only other news item I have is one that should not shock Venom, but easily still might disappoint him. Word out of the early screenings for Exorcist, whatever the hell the subtitle is, not good. And I don't think we're surprised at all, Venom, are we?
Oh, gee, David Gordon Green made a subpar horror movie? I'm fucking shocked.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, it's like, I'm not sure why people are surprised, because look, Halloween, good or bad, at least, like, if anything, it's a slasher. So you would think if there's any type of horror movie that would be more friendly for, like, new creators to do adaptions of, it'd be a slasher movie, because for the most part, there's a simple formula. But when it comes to The Exorcist, there's something unique about the actual Exorcist. Now, of course, since then, exorcism movies have kind of become tropey and like a dime a dozen. But if we're talking about The Exorcist, and you're saying, and I think this was supposed to be written like it's a sequel to the first Exorcist, it's like, well, you can't just do a run-of-the-mill exorcism movie that we've seen 100 times before. Like, you're taking on the obligation and the responsibility of carrying the name The Exorcist. And it sounds like people aren't happy with what it has resulted in so far. So I'm sure there'll be reshoots, and I don't know, man. I don't care what they do. I just don't have much hope that it's gonna be any good.
Nope. Look, folks, what genius decided to remake one of the greatest horror movies ever made? It just doesn't make any fucking sense. I mean, I understand originality is dead in Hollywood, but to remake The Exorcist, I mean, what the fuck? What's next? The Godfather is going to get remade? Fuck you.
David Gordon Green's The Godfather.
Oh my God, stop it. Starring Keanu Reeves as Vito Corleone.
Oh, I still watch it though.
No, but it's like, I try not to rail against remakes and long time sequels like the 20 years past the original, whatever the case may be. I try not to get too crazy about them because sometimes they're good. Admittedly, sometimes they're good, but most of the times they're not. And you're talking about The Exorcist. You're talking about a 10 out of 10, a near flawless film, and in David Gordon Green's fucking machismo thinks that he can actually do justice to this material.
Him and Dane
the
McBride.
man who just ruined Michael Myers. I mean, no, just no, fuck off. Come up with an original idea, you fucking hack.
Yeah.
Now I'm all pissed off. Good job, Mike.
And The Exorcist already has a great sequel called The Exorcist 3.
Ah, a spectacular sequel. George C. Scott, one of the greatest actors ever. Come on now.
Talking about TARP.
A damn carp.
Yeah. It's the best scene of all time.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah, that's the other thing is like if this is a failure, it's like is he just gonna find the next franchise? I'll go now. I need to resurrect. Like I'm already dreading Nightmare.
He's turning into Rob Zombie.
Like, please don't touch it.
God, he's turning into fucking Rob Zombie, but with no style. At least Rob Zombie has a style. Like when his movies are bad, you can still tell they're a Rob Zombie movie. David Gordon Green, he doesn't have a style. He's not James Wan or any of these guys whose movies you can pick out. He's just some random horror director who, admittedly, after the first Halloween 2018, I was kind of praising because I did love that movie. I absolutely loved 2018. But just steadily, that trilogy just got worse and worse, and it just such an insult to Michael Myers.
And the fucking crazy thing is, I actually love his comedy movies, and
yes,
and it's fucking crazy that the guy who made Pineapple Express fucking made Halloween fucking that whole trilogy, and I'm like, who thought this was a good idea with it? Was Jason Blum smoking weed with him one day?
Guaranteed. Guaranteed.
But yeah, David, go back to the comedy shit. Stay away from horror. Yeah.
Leave
Make a
horror
sequel to Your
alone.
Highness.
The thing is that you can't talk to David Gordon Green. You got to talk to the people who have his ear, the people that keep telling him, oh, yeah, you should do another horror remake. Talk to those people so that they stop feeding that shit to David Gordon Green, Just stop it.
It's all the people that blew that fucking movie. I'm like, oh, it was like that. It was like people that usually would hate shit like this were fucking like, this is amazing.
Well,
it fucking boggled my mind.
Yeah. I know somebody who's that was their number one movie of the year. I'm leaving that one alone, but yeah. Halloween fucking Ends was somebody's number one movie of the year last year. Holy shit. I want to kick someone in the mouth so bad.
That's how shitty that shit.
Let's move on before I get even more angry.
Yeah, that's all the news I had. Do you guys have any news?
No, I just want to talk about that Gandalf trying to molest Brendan Fraser in the next movie.
I scoured the sites today. I didn't really see anything worth discussing.
Which is kind of fucked up because that actually did happen to Brendan Fraser in real life.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Glad you're back,
all
buddy.
Right. Yes, it is. Yes, we are. Okay, well, with that said, I guess we'll take our break and come back with a couple movies. This time up, it was Venom's picks. Venom, what movies did you choose?
All right, I decided to do something a little bit different. Obviously, this is episode 53, so we've done 52 episodes filled with horror movies. I decided I wanted to have a little change of pace. At first, I was thinking about grabbing a couple of Japanese movies, but since we did Asian horror with the Shaw Brothers last episode, I thought about doing some docudramas about horror movies and horror creators. So Shadow of the Vampire is one that came to mind right away. Very popular movie from 2000. I saw it a few times, and I have always had a good time with it. So that was the obvious pick. The lesser pick is one that I've never seen before. So this was actually a first-time watch for me. and that was Gods and Monsters from 1996, starring Ian McKellen, Brendan Fraser, Lynn Redgrave, countless others. But a couple of docudramas today. One of them is a true docudrama. The other one kind of comes off more like a dark parody. But, we'll talk about that when we come back.
All right, sounds good. So we'll be right back with Gods and Monsters and Shadow of Vampire.
Lights, sound.
Okay for sound.
Action.
The Bride of Frankenstein. A man with a legendary career behind him.
Who's this new yard man?
Mr. Boom might I thought something big. He came cheap.
A man with his life still ahead of him.
Hey, the master wants to know if you're free for lunch.
I do have a lawn this afternoon. I'm free until then.
Expect nothing fancy.
Come in, Mr. Boom.
Separated by class.
Are you famous?
I was merely a director. You have the most architectural skull. Have you ever sat for an artist?
By time.
You were a soldier.
I was an officer in the trenches.
And by desires.
All I know is bugger. He's a bugger.
Does that surprise you?
I'm not.
I did not think you a bugger too.
They have nothing in common.
Mr. Clayton Boone, my gardener. He's never met a princess, only queens.
Except their humanity.
I've spent much of my life outrunning the past. And now it floods all over me.
I'm losing my mind. Every day a new piece of it goes, and soon there'll be none of it left.
My condition will continue to deteriorate until the end of my life.
Why are you here? Let's get this straight. What did you want from me? What do you want?
Just back from the hospital already. You're chasing after boys.
Oh, shut up.
Man's got to make up his life alone.
A philosopher.
Thoreau, with a lawnmower.
Do you believe people come into our lives for a purpose?
To a new world of gods and monsters.
So, we understand each other.
Living like this.
Roll camera. Iris in. Begin.
It's been a fitful night, but you wake refreshed. What is that beside you? It's a book about vampires. Nosferatu.
Director F.W. Murnau had an obsession to create the world's most realistic vampire movie.
Meet Count Orlok.
The overture to our Symphony of Horrors.
He dug up an actor.
I'd like some makeup.
Well, you don't get any.
Who didn't just play the part.
But you're not feeding. No, you're not drinking her blood.
He lived it.
What is the matter with you?
Where did you find him, really?
From Lionsgate Films and producer Nicolas Cage comes the haunting tale of the uncompromising.
You will have no close-ups now.
The unimaginable.
Blood! Blood!
And the undead. Academy Award nominees John Malkovich.
I will finish my picture!
And Willem Dafoe.
This is hardly your picture any longer.
Shadow of the Vampire.
How dare you destroy my photographer?
Why not the script girl?
I'll eat her later.
Yum, yum. It's time for a tasty and refreshing snack. we promise to satisfy your hunger, your thirst, your sweet tooth. So visit our refreshment center now. Let's go! And now, on with the show.
All right, folks, and we are back now to discuss our feature reviews for the episode. First up, we're going to look at Gods and Monsters. This film was released in the States in 1998. It sat on a shelf for a couple of years because technically it was made in 96. This one is directed by Bill and written by Bill Condon. It stars, as I mentioned earlier, Ian McKellen, Brendan Fraser, and Lynn Redgrave. This is basically the story, as IMDb puts it in their synopsis. It is the last days of Frankenstein director James Whale's life, and these days are explored. Definitely some liberties are taken with this. For the most part, yes, this is a very accurate depiction of, the last few days of James Whale's life. But obviously, there's some glorification here. It is a film, so you have to put some stuff in there to make it more interesting for the viewer. But this was definitely a first-time watch for me, something I had never seen before. Very interested, though, because I'm a big Ian McKellen fan. Who's not, honestly? Brendan Fraser, to see Brendan Fraser as this chiseled Adonis after he wins an Oscar for The Whale, this was jarring. Like, I forgot that Brendan Fraser was hot at one point. I totally forgot. And when he takes his shirt off, it's like, holy shit. Like, that's The Whale. Wow. Okay. So anyway, let's go ahead and start out with Derek. Derek, why don't you jump in here with some of your initial thoughts on Gods and Monsters?
Before I start, Venom, I wanted to know, we actually have talked about Bill Condon on this show before.
Yes.
Do you remember what it was?
Oh, shit. I was looking up his filmography earlier, and I do remember seeing something in there that was like, oh, yeah, we talked about that.
Yeah, he wrote the screenplay for Strange Behavior, a.k.a. Dead Kids.
Nice. Oh, I wasn't thinking about that one then, but
yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and he's a very interesting director because he was a writer, but then became a director. He did like few movies in the horror. Like he did the sequel to Candyman, Farewell to the Flesh.
Yeah, that's where I thought you were going, but then I realized I've never reviewed that movie.
and he was even more infamous because he fucking did a lot of like musicals and shit, like Beauty and the Beast and fucking Dreamgirls and shit. I'm like, and then he did fucking that last Twilight movie, which was dog shit. Like all the Twilight movies.
Well, yeah, he did a couple of them, didn't he?
Yeah, he did the last two, like the
last two, okay.
Because there was one movie in two parts.
I don't know. I've never seen them.
Yeah, I had sisters.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, some of that shit. Oh my god. But yeah, Gods and Monsters. This is kind of like a, also like the thing that kind of attracted me about this movie is that it's produced by Clive Barker.
Yes, and Nicolas Cage.
No, that's the next movie.
That's the next one. I'm sorry. Yeah. Right. I'm getting my
Clive
notes.
Barker is the producer on this one, and yeah, it's interesting that the thing that's cool about this movie is like all like that flashback shit where they kind of incorporate like all the parts of Wheel's life into like those flashbacks, like some of the monster stuff, and then like his time in the war, and Ian McKellen is fantastic as James Whales. Like I've seen like pictures of this dude and it's like spot on. It's great. And yeah, it's a little, like I watched this at a very young age and shit, and it's like this is like the first time I'm like, oh, there's actual like shit like this in movies where like guys talking about guys in that way, and that was like I was super young when I saw this. I'm like, I was kind of freaked out, especially with the whole part that happens near the end. I'm like, oh, no. Yeah, but we'll talk about that later. But yeah, it's a fantastic movie in that aspect, and and I love like even like the guy they cast as Boris Karloff. I'm like spot on for that time period. It was fucking awesome, And yeah, it's just a fun movie, and it's like a day in a life, and of course, if like the story of James Wheels from like all like the Frankenstein documentaries that's on every fucking DVD release of that movie, like his life ended tragically from suicide, drowning, and that's how the movie ends. And I love like the whole like little after scene before that though.
Oh, the ending of that is, it's
Yeah.
one of my favorite scenes. I fucking love that.
Yeah, especially when it turns to black and white. It's fucking awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, this movie's great. Yeah, definitely more on like the non-horror side of things, but the imagery is like spot on James Whale influence, and I like that about this movie.
Exactly. Before Mike comes in and says his piece, I want to jump in here a little bit. As I mentioned earlier, this is a first-time watch for me. I knew of the existence of the film. It's just, dramas and docudramas aren't exactly the kind of content that I gravitate towards. Life is a drama already. I don't need it in my entertainment. But I am a big fan of James Whale. I've said it many times before. Bride of Frankenstein is my favorite Universal monster film. It's absolutely brilliant. Its balance of horror and comedy is stellar. And then the gay kind of undertones of the film that still kind of peek out. They're obviously a lot more prevalent today when you watch it than if you watched it back in the 30s. But and obviously that comes from our director, who was very homosexual at a time when homosexuality really wasn't accepted in Hollywood. It was the kind of thing where if you kept it, in your bedroom, it wouldn't be that big a deal. But obviously, if it kind of came out in the public, it was going to be a giant scandal. So, but I mean, it's the performances of these films, of this film, that drives this movie. Ian McKellen and Brendan Fraser, I feel like, are both absolutely brilliant. And if you don't believe me, folks, listen to the Academy, because both Ian McKellen and Brendan Fraser were nominated for Oscars for this film. Ian for Best Actor, of course, and Brendan for Best Supporting Actor. And then it actually did win an Oscar. This actually is an Oscar-winning film. Bill Condon. Yeah, Best Adapted Screenplay, which, I mean, that's a huge Oscar, basically saying you made the best movie based on a book or some other content this year. That's pretty huge. Original screenplay and adapted screenplay are two of the bigger Oscars. So yeah, for a guy with horror roots like Bill Condon to come away with an Oscar for adapted screenplay is pretty goddamn awesome. And ultimately, it's warranted. I mean, when you watch the movie, these performances, like, I'm not generally like, how can I put it? I don't generally gravitate towards like gay cinema, but when it's done so well, and it's not overt in this movie, even though, yes, there's a couple of stories that he tells that are a little over the top, and then one particular pool scene where you've got penis all over the place, but
cucumber sandwiches.
Yeah, but it's not like, like the homosexuality of the whole thing wasn't really the driving force. It was really his deteriorating mind, and just the fact that this brilliant man who, made some amazing movies was basically confusing, forgetting people, confusing situations in life, having hallucinations, blah, 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 seeing his father. Just, it's all just so sad. And the ending is kind of apt, if you will. It's very tragic, as Derek said, but ultimately, when somebody who's a creative like that, who suddenly starts to lose their mind, it's awful. It's like an athlete losing their physical ability. It's just as tragic there. So, but Ian McKellen and Brendan Fraser, but Brendan, man, what a performance this is. Like, I'm actually upset I didn't see this sooner, because Brendan Fraser to me is George of the Jungle and the Mummy movies. Like, that's the most I know from him.
Encino Man.
Yeah, I never saw Encino
Monkey
Man.
Bone.
Yeah, not my movie. Yeah, I
School
hated Pauly
Ties?
Shore. You got to realize, anything with Pauly Shore in it, I actively boycotted in the 80s and 90s. I had no love for that man. So yeah, sadly, I've never seen a Pauly Shore movie. Why am I saying sadly? That's like a badge of honor. Fuck that.
Oh, Phantom
But,
of the Ball. Oh,
yeah. So anyway, like I said, this performance, it really does show a future Oscar winner. I mean, obviously he won the Oscar this year for Best Actor for The Whale, and it really shows an emotional range that I had never seen from him until The Whale. I saw The Whale last year, But like this movie, like this is a performance I didn't know Brendan had in him in the 90s. I thought he was, George of the Jungle, Encino Man, blah blah blah. That's, at best maybe an action star, with the late 90s and the Mummy movies.
Oh, I love him in the Mummy. Though. He's
so. Oh, I absolutely do too. Him and Rachel Weisz are perfect for those movies. But this performance, like I said, it took me by surprise. I was not expecting it. And it turned out to be just a sheer joy. Like, this is a very slow movie. Like, I don't know that this is a movie I would recommend to a standard cinemaphile. Beautiful performances, great cinematography, good score, but it is slow. It's a very slow film. There's not, compared to our second film where there's actual action and tension and horror, this one is really a straight docudrama. But despite that, it still works for me. I had an absolute great time with it. And it just really raises Ian McKellen and Brendan Fraser's status, in my opinion. Ian McKellen's already a legend, obviously. But to see him play James Whale, and to play him so perfectly, too, because James Whale was a little bit of that pervert, from documentaries and other things that we've seen in the past, like Derek was saying, from every Frankenstein release. He very much was an openly gay man, but just not ultra open about it. But in his own, like that opening scene with the reporter, with the kid, where he's having him strip, like at first I didn't know what to think of that scene. I'm like, what the fuck am I looking at? But then as the scene keeps going, I'm like, okay, this actually makes more sense. Like James Whale, this is something that I could see James Whale doing. Whether that scene actually occurred in real life, I don't know. Because like I said, the movie does take liberties with, the quote unquote truth. But ultimately the aspects of his death that they go over here are real. He did, commit suicide with pills and jumped into his pool, blah, blah, blah. So very, very, very sad ending. But I've rambled on enough. Mike, get in here. What do you think of Gods and Monsters?
Yeah, this one's really good. Obviously, its connective tissue to the horror genre is kind of... If you're looking for a horror movie, this probably isn't the right one. But if you're looking for a story about, a prominent voice in the horror genre from the past, you'll like this one. I found it to be like, it's kind of a sad story because we're talking about the kind of like final days of someone's life. But if it tackles issues of, it seems like, morality, regret, sexuality, kind of like you said, the breaking down of the mind when you can no longer control your thoughts.
Even a little bit of classism.
Classism. Some of his inhibitions come out that he probably would be better at concealing if his mind
I was waiting for him to girl fight the other gay director at that party.
Oh, yes! What was his name? George something.
George Karak or something.
Yeah, I love the reenactments of like the Universal stuff. I think it's really well done. Get a peek behind the scenes of that process. Brendan Fraser, was this like his last movie before he kind of disappeared for obviously the awful reasons we know now? But I think this might have been like the last movie before he took the hiatus.
Nah, he was in Blast from the Past and Crash.
Oh, yeah, and the first Mummy movie is the year after this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Okay. I wasn't sure. What year was this? 98?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Those movies are definitely after this then. I think I've read the year wrong or something. But yeah, Brendan Fraser, this was part of when he was on the rise. He's excellent in this. I love, not Brendan Fraser's character, kind of like the other super fan that was going to the house.
The kid, the interviewer.
The cucumber sandwich guy.
Cucumber sandwich guy.
Yeah, he kind of played like the annoying super fan kind of well too. And when James Whale's like trying to...
If I could.
Yeah, James Whale's trying to tell his stories or just give background, and dude's like, "Yeah, can we get to the horror stuff?" Like,
that was shitty. Like that, I've never even heard of an interviewer doing that. Basically, just telling the interviewee, "Oh, I don't really care about that stuff. Let's get to Frankenstein." Like that's, I don't know, that bothered me a little bit.
Yeah, and it gives you a little bit of like insight though, because it's like some of our favorite horror icons, they like horror, even if they were in like horror stuff that was very prominent, it's still just a slice of their life. So I'm sure it can get like a little annoying when they're like talking about experiences or giving you background, and the people are just like, no, I just want to talk about this one thing you did, and that's it.
Yep.
But overall, yeah, this movie is very good. Definitely a drama. It's definitely emotional. Where it goes, like you guys said, it ends with Whale's death, and I think it's a good kind of end of life movie that tackles what kind of happens, like what to expect sort of at that stage of life where anything can happen any day. I mean, obviously that's true for just life period, but especially when you're at a elevated age like that. I think it's, like I said, regret. I think there's some trying to make peace with things with your life, with maybe mistakes you made or things you didn't get a chance to do that you wanted to. I think all that's wrapped up in the story, and it's just great. And I almost feel like the horror aspects or all that stuff is like a bonus to like the story and just the display of the acting we see. And I definitely see why this won awards.
Yeah, I mean, it's after you watch this movie, I mean, it's no surprise to find out that, our two main actors were nominated for Oscars. These are just beautiful, beautiful performances. A couple of aspects of the film that we actually haven't talked about yet. One, Hannah. I fucking loved Hannah.
Lynn Redgrave, yeah, she's amazing.
Lynn Redgrave as Hannah was a great performance because she had that dichotomy of being a very religious person and being against homosexuality, but still having this loyalty to James Whale that I found really beautiful. The fact that she was able to kind of just push her religion aside and say, I don't agree with your lifestyle, but you're very obviously a good person, so I don't have a problem working for you. That whole conversation where she was talking about James Whale's homosexuality was just a beautiful scene. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then the other, go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's kind of like she has like this weird like secret love for Whale in a sense, especially with the climax. It kind of gives that away with the way that she reacted to it.
Absolutely. No, yeah, that's definitely, it wouldn't be a surprise if she had feelings for him. Absolutely. The as you said, the way that she responds to the suicide obviously is very sad, very showing of her true feelings for James Whale. And then the other aspect of the film that we haven't talked about yet are the dream sequences, or I don't want to say dream sequences, but the sequences where they actually did Frankenstein, where Brendan Fraser, the first one, Brendan Fraser plays Dr. Frankenstein and James Whale plays the monster. Like, I thought that was really, really cool. And then the next time they do that, it's reversed. Brendan Fraser is the monster and James Whale is the doctor. And I just thought, like, the placement of those two scenes based on the relationship between Clay and James Whale, I thought was just really, really well done. Beautiful editing. I mean, yeah, there's really very little that we can say negative about this film. About the only thing that anybody might have an issue with, like I mentioned earlier, is the pacing. It is a slow movie, but if you genuinely like James Whale like I do, I love the content that he created. I absolutely adore it. So I am interested to see, how his life ended, the last days of his life, stuff like that. I'd be just as interested as a documentary on him during the creation of the Frankenstein movies as well. That would probably be interesting to see the auteur at work, but I am very happy with what they gave us with this one, just covering the last few weeks of his life. I thought that was great.
Yeah, like, they could have probably cut out like the scene where Brendan Fraser just raw dogs that girl after the bar.
But it does say a lot about Brendan, though, that,
at that time period,
I mean, ultimately, he, like I said, like I mentioned earlier, he's this big chiseled Adonis. Obviously, he's going to gravitate back towards what he's familiar with. And what is he familiar with? Having sex with random women and drinking at a bar. So, after James Whale kind of kicked them out and said, I don't want you posing for me anymore, where else is he going to go but back to a bar to fuck some random chick? So to me, it made sense. I agree with you. It may not have necessarily been a vital scene, but I'm still okay with it.
Yeah.
Because then the end has a little bit more weight to it too. When we
He's a
realize
family
that
man.
that now he's a family man, he has a kid, and he's sharing his love of Frankenstein with his son. I adore that final scene when he's doing the Frankenstein walk in the rain. Fucking loved it.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, and fucking Benny's the bartender.
That's right, old Benny.
Yeah. Bye, Benny.
Bye, Benny. Anything else you guys want to add to this?
This is a good movie. Check it out.
It's not an easy movie to find, unfortunately, but there's probably a physical release out there somewhere, maybe on DVD or something, but it's not officially streaming anywhere. You know, I rented it on Amazon Prime. I'm sure there's other outlets where you can get it, but yeah, it's not the easiest movie to find, but I still highly recommend it. Like I said, if you have an interest in James Whale, you know what I mean?
It's a lot easier to find than the next movie we're talking about.
Really? That's weird, because I had no problem finding that one. That's odd. Yeah, it happens, though. All right, folks, so let's move on to our second film of the night. That is going to be our film, The Shadow of the Vampire, starring Willem Dafoe, John Malkovich, Eddie Izzard, Corey Elwes, just so many people, names in this one. Obviously, as we all know, this is based on the making of the original Nosferatu. It gives a great little background, too, on why F.W. Murnau made Nosferatu instead of making Dracula, which is exactly what he wanted to make. And then the fact that this movie, I did some research on the original Nosferatu film as well, and just the fact that that movie even still exists after, you know, they were ordered to destroy every copy of it after the Bram Stoker estate sued F.W. Murnau to block the release of the film. It's, you know, it's a minor miracle right there. Now, obviously, you know, maybe back then it's a lot easier to slip through the cracks and, you know, film reels that maybe got sent to like Czechoslovakia, which is now the Czech Republic, of course, but we're talking the 1920s here, so it's still Czechoslovakia. It's like I said, it's a minor miracle that we even still have the movie to watch today, and it's been restored multiple times with different orchestras, and there's even one version out there with Typo Negative doing the soundtrack, doing the score for Nosferatu, and that's kind of a hard version to find of the original Nosferatu with Typo Negative doing the soundtrack. If you can find that, somebody tell me, because I'd pay top dollar for that one. Anyway, let's go ahead and bring in Mike this time first. Mike, tell us a little bit about what you thought of Shadow of the Vampire.
Well, right off the bat, the first thing I was thinking as I was watching this, like barely 10 minutes in, they pretty much got the casting perfect on this. Like, my second thought was like, wow, I would love to see a Nosferatu remake with these actual people playing the characters, because it's just so well done. Like, if you didn't know any better, like, you would almost think it's like a behind the scenes look at the actual movie being made. But it's like, what more can you say? Willem Dafoe, Malkovich, like, just the two of them, the way they play off each other, the strife that went on during the filming. I think the settings of it, I don't know what it is about vampire movies, just in general, vampire Dracula movies, but so many just get the atmosphere and ambiance and set design so correct, and it's like always a joy because there's so many different interpretations about how, like, you know, Dracula or vampires live, like what their castle is or where they're hanging out, and I think this one just nailed it. And, you know, Nosferatu, I haven't seen it in a while, but Max Schreck, the depiction, it's just so good. Like, it's such an easy movie to watch because it feels like they nail every piece of the essence of what it was probably actually like making the movie. I assume they try to base it off of as much like factual information as they can for something that long ago, like whatever records were kept. But Yeah, man, it's very entertaining. I haven't seen this one in a long time, and it was a nice refresher on it. Just it's great, and like the scenes when they recreate some of the famous scenes from Nosferatu, I think that's a joy too. Just because it feels like there's passion between the cast as well. Like they know they're covering something that was special in the history of film, not just horror, but film itself, right? So yeah, this definitely gets a huge thumbs up for me. I definitely recommend it. It's probably one of my favorite movies about the making of a movie out there. So yeah.
That's valid, absolutely. Derek, come on in here, buddy.
Man, this movie is fucking great. Yeah, I would want to start out a few things like what's the director's name of this?
Oh, I forgot.
E. Elias Merhige?
Yeah, let's go with that.
Yeah.
I can't pronounce that word either.
Yeah, well, he directed that movie, that like infamous like experimental art horror movie, Begotten. That was his first movie. It's like a very infamous movie. If you haven't heard of Begotten, it was like heavily bootlegged around like the circles, like and shit like that. That was his first movie, and this is his second movie. And yeah, it has like some of that experimental stuff that was in that movie, kind of like would mix with like that German expressionism cinematography that Nosferatu kind of had, because they even shot on like older film, I think, to get like that aesthetical look for this movie. And yeah, it's great. And then you just get into like, you got Cyrus the Virus versus Norman Osborn. Malkovich and Defoe are acting their asses off in this movie, and it's amazing. I want you to do that scene right now. It's fucking so good. And then you got like the Dread Pirate Roberts as the cinematographer.
The Dread cinematographer Roberts.
Yep. You got Udo Kier in there too. He was a Dracula too. You got fucking Udo Kier in there, Eddie Izzard, and fucking this is like the whole like fucking like scene and shit. Like when because definitely this is a fictional version, and he didn't really kill all these fucking people.
No, of course not.
But it's fucking great. It's like that's what they use on the film, and it's kind of fucking crazy if you think about that. If, like you never even like knew that Nosferatu was like a fake movie, and you just watched this first, and you're like, what the fuck? This really happened?
Right.
And then you watch Nosferatu later, I'm like, damn, that director slaughtered that woman. Catherine McCormick always dies in every movie she's in. Braveheart, this, and 28 weeks later.
Yep. For me, I've seen this movie at least a couple of times before, but this was a long time rewatch in the coming. I easily haven't watched it in over 10 years, but this was another one that's just a beautiful performance. So, like I said, this one is less docudrama and more kind of dark parody, as I call it. I don't even know if I'm using the proper terminology, but that's what I'm going to go with, because even though, because the thing is that Max Schreck was one of the first method actors. And because of that, people on the set didn't know what to make of him, since he was always Count Orlok. You were not allowed to call him Max or Mr. Schreck, Schreck, as some people said. Oh, by the way, Schreck is the German word for terror, if anybody didn't know that. But yeah, that's legit. So Max Schreck's his last name is Terror. Go figure. Anyway, when you actually watch legitimate documentaries about Nosferatu, you realize that, Max Schreck was just a method actor, and the people on that set just had never worked with a method actor before. So in F.W. Murnau's memoirs, he writes a lot of stuff about believing that Max Schreck was an actual vampire and things like that. But no, like Derek said, Max Schreck didn't kill anybody on set. And he was actually a very popular actor at the time. He did a lot of stage in London and did do some films in Germany. Like I actually saw a couple of clips of him, with no monster makeup on him, and he just looks like an upstanding German gentleman. So, but even with the liberties that the movie took, they're still so entertaining. Like this movie is endlessly entertaining to watch. Willem Dafoe's, and once again, by the way, an Oscar-nominated performance, as Willem Dafoe was nominated for Best Supporting Actor for this role. So, man, I picked some good movies, huh?
Yeah. Should have won.
Oh, he absolutely should have won. This performance is stellar. I mean, just his mannerisms. Like, the man doesn't even have to say a word. There's one scene, it's one of the later scenes in the movie where Murnau yells at Max Schreck because, he's in the wrong position, or he wanted to go ahead and kill the girl right away. For those who don't know, basically, F.W. Murnau believed that Max Schreck was a real vampire, and he made a deal with him that at the end of the production, you can have my female star. You can take her, you can drink her blood or whatever. So that's kind of the concept of the film. But there's a scene where it's near the end where they're filming that death scene, and Max Schreck gets a little too close too fast, and Murnau starts yelling at him. And the mannerisms, like he starts pacing in the room, and he's like throwing his hands up, and like it's just so fucking entertaining. I can't get over it. I mean, the man did his homework, because he definitely has a lot of the mannerisms of the original Max Schreck. When you watch like the little tiny bit of behind the scenes footage from the original Nosferatu that still exists, you can definitely tell that Dafoe did his homework. I mean, his face, his smile, his eyes, the way that he tilts his head back but still looks down at you, just fucking terrifying.
Yeah,
so I mean,
Venom, the thing that makes it so fucking more awesome is when they actually like cut like scenes from the actual real Nosferatu and then they add Dafoe into them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. They're
and it looks like legit, like same scene, but just Willem Dafoe.
I really like I like the scene in this movie where they're filming the boat scene from Nosferatu, and Max Schreck is so in character that he can't be on a boat. He can't go over water. Some vampire mythos say that vampires can't go over water. So for him to actually say, I refuse to take a boat to the next location, but then he just kind of shows up there magically, it just adds to that allure, the mystery of the whole thing. Is Max Schreck a vampire? No, of course not. But was he an interesting character that basically believed he was a vampire for however long it took to film this movie? Absolutely. And that's where the enjoyment of this film comes in, is watching Max Schreck believe everything that everything that he does is real and truly vampiric. Ultimately, the dead giveaway in the movie is the scene where he drinks vodka. Most vampire lore says that vampires can't ingest anything but blood. I know there's some vampire, universes out there where the vampires can ingest other things, but in general, blood is the only thing they can ingest. And we see him actually getting drunk on vodka. So that's kind of like your telltale sign.
Oh, that scene's amazing just because it's such
and it's a great scene.
It's a scene between like Willem Dafoe and Udo Kier and the other guy that looks like Giles from Buffy.
And he just snaps that bat out of the air. That was
great.
And
he just Ozzy Osbourne's it.
Oh, that was awesome. Yeah, that's what I mean, that's fucking dedication, my friends. That man is such a method actor that he actually drank blood multiple times on set. I mean, bravo. Fucking bravo to Max Schreck. But yeah, ultimately Shadow of the Vampire, very entertaining movie. Definitely more horror adjacent than Gods and Monsters. There's actual tension, atmosphere. There's actual death in the film, obviously, as we've been talking about. So this is definitely something that's more in the alley of genre fans, something that they might gravitate towards.
Plus,
more
it's
easily.
Produced by Nick Cage.
And it's produced by Nicolas Cage, exactly. That was fucking shocking when I saw that. But then again,
that's why Malkovich is in it. He's probably like, I'm producing this movie, Malkovich, on the set of content.
Right?
You also get a peek. You also get a peek into what movie sets probably used to look like compared to now, and what they could get away with. That filming of the last. that film or the filming of Nosferatu's death, when the director's just yelling at him, "You're dying! You're dying! You're taking your last breath! The curse is out!" Like, oh man, that was so good.
Defoe fucking got Green Goblin because of this movie.
I wouldn't be surprised. Shit.
Oh, it's actually it's a fact.
Awesome. No, because he fucking deserves it. He's a great Nosferatu, and he's a great Green Goblin. Shit.
Should have won an Oscar for No Way Home. Attaboy.
Maybe, yeah. I could see it. At least nominated. But yeah, I mean, superhero movies.
Should be nominated for every movie he's in, though.
Ultimately, yes, I agree with you. I don't think I've ever seen a Willem Dafoe vehicle that I didn't like. But yeah, he also stars in a lot of stuff that's not Academy friendly, you know? So, sadly.
Yeah, like
Green Goblin's not getting nominated, so.
Like 17 Abel Ferrara movies.
Exactly. Oh, man. But I don't know. What else can we talk about here? Going back to some of the expressions that Count Orlok makes throughout the movie, did you guys think that it multiple times in the movie, it looks like he smelled a fart? Like, he curls up his lip and he brings his hands up to his face, and it's like, did somebody fart, dude? Like, you literally look like you're smelling something awful.
My favorite part, I want makeup.
I want makeup, yeah. You don't get makeup. and that's the other thing, too, is the balls of F.W. Murnau. Like, if he genuinely believes that this guy is a vampire, he talks down to him like he's just any other actor. And I'm like, dude, pretty sure if that's a real vampire, he's going to take your ass out.
Unless you're John Malkovich.
Apparently, unless you're John Malkovich, exactly. Because nobody else on the set is fucking safe. I mean, he took out a cinematographer, a writer, a producer.
Two cinematographers.
Oh, that's right. So, yeah, I mean, obviously a lot of death and destruction on this set, but
when he just
like I said,
when he just fucking snaps fucking Dread Pirate cameraman's neck, I was like, whoa.
Yeah, that was, and they filmed it too. The fact that they got it on film, it's like so great. And like, I actually liked how Murnau or Malkovich, how he kind of got mad at he got mad at Shrek, not necessarily for killing people on the set, but for killing them in a way that didn't look good on camera. Like when he was killing Udo Kier, he was actually yelling at him like, "Oh, this doesn't look very good. This isn't going to translate to film very well." It's like,
he's still talking to the dead body. Could you just move that steak?
Oh yeah, exactly. It's just the cavalierness of it all, that you're literally, your producer is getting killed, strangled to death right now, and you're still worried about the scene. Like, I don't know if he's a genius or a psycho.
You just realize this is like a cannibal Holocaust version of the making of Nosferatu.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, man. If the movie started in New York and then went to Germany, maybe.
Oh.
The Italian formula. You got to follow the Italian formula. All right, folks. Well, anything else that we want to bring up? Or are we done?
Fun fact, Willem Dafoe grabbed Catherine McCormick's breast for a lot of times, up to 5 minutes. That's actually a fact on IMDb.
I mean, you see it in the film during that final scene where he's like drinking her blood. His hand is right on her right tit the whole time. Like, he's like, what do you call it? Caressing it, squeezing it. I'm like, are you getting off on the blood or the breast in your hand? It was weird, but yeah. If that upset the actress, I totally could see it. Because, I mean, he was doing it on purpose. He would literally look down at the boob and then put his hand on it and then start sucking blood out of her neck and whatnot. It was kind of interesting. Yeah. Obviously, it's a different day and age, so, women weren't treated nearly as well on set, blah, blah, blah. I mean, they ended up drugging her just so that she would, finish the final scene.
Yeah.
Which, makes Murnau an even bigger.
The first Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah, I'll go with that. Probably not the first, but...
He's Bill Cosby.
Oh, terrible. Once we mention Bill Cosby, I think we're done.
Yeah, I think so. What do you say, Mike? Michael?
He's yelling at his kids again.
I think the sun's starting to peek into the podcast, which means we're about to start turning into dust if we don't get out of here. So... All right. Well, with that, let's find out where else we can be heard. So, Venom, I'll start with you. What do you got new out for everybody?
All right, Derek and I have a new episode of No More Room in Hell presents Creature Comforts. That's episode number 17. I'm just finishing up the edit on that now, so I would imagine as you listen to this episode, that one will be available on the No More Room in Hell feed. So check that out. On that episode, we have our returning guest of David Garrett Jr., and he brought us The Monster from 2016 to discuss, which is actually an early A24 movie that I had forgotten was an A24 movie, but it makes sense because I love that fucking movie so much. So it makes sense that it's an A24 movie. But anyway, that episode should be out as you listen to this one, so check that out. Let's see. We got the Crystal Lake Gift Shop, episode 4 will be getting recorded next week, a week from today. And of course, that is our episode by episode retrospective of the original Friday the 13th, the series that aired from 1987 to 1990. We are up to episode 4, so that'll be getting recorded next week and will be released shortly after that. I did a guest spot on the return episode of Kill the Cast, where Jerry, myself, Jay, and Mr. Parka all had a round table of the dead where we basically just discussed some of our favorite zombie movies, some of the most important ones, the most critically acclaimed, and then we each did a top 5 list of our 5 favorite zombie movies. So check that out. I'm pretty sure that episode's available now. I'm not 100% sure, but you can find that one on the Legion Podcast Network. Everything else I discussed you can find on the Dark Discussions Podcast Network, darkdiscussions.com.
All right. Kick it over to Derek in case he has anything.
I got nothing but Creature Comforts. Move on.
But Creature Comforts is awesome, so you got a lot, my friend.
That's right. Fuck that.
All right. Well, I got nothing new other than what Venom already pointed out.
Why do we do this? Venom should just do
what are you talking about? I left one for you, Mike, you jerk.
Wait, what one did you not mention?
Fresh Cuts.
Oh shit!
I always
I'm
feel
so used
bad
to like
because
that
I
being
never.
one of the first ones.
Yeah, I always feel bad because Mike never has anything to say, so I figured I'd leave him one to talk about this week, and then he forgets. Real nice.
It's no longer fresh. So yeah,
It's
Fresh
moldy.
Cuts. On the latest episode, what the hell did we discuss on the latest episode?
With Sarah,
Shit.
the Bone Woman.
Oh yeah, very good. I swear, yeah. So
Mike can't
that
say
is
it.
currently on Shudder now. So everyone check it out.
Yes, it's a much better version of Clock.
The fuck's Clock?
Yep,
Yeah,
exactly. If you listen to our episode Clock, you probably want to listen to this one more.
Yep.
Clock on Hulu. For anyone who hasn't seen it, but yeah, Husera is on Shudder.
I'm gonna review that movie now.
Which one, Clock?
You should.
Yeah, man.
God damn it. Yeah, that movie bothered me. But we already discussed that. So
I need to watch it so I can listen to.
Cool. Well, next episode will be number 54, and it'll be back to Derek's picks. So Derek, I'm sure we'll have a couple of fun and exciting movies for us to cover. Maybe in a couple of weeks, maybe a little longer. Yeah, just depending on our schedules.
Penetration.
Yeah. Back to something that will haunt us for the rest of our lives, probably. But hey, that's part of the deal.
Oh wow, are we doing a Serbian film in August Underground? Nice. All right.
You never know. You know, me and Venom might pick that one sometime.
Out of respect to humanity in general, I would never pick August Underground. I like the movies, don't get me wrong. They're trash classics.
I just want to hear Mike's talk.
But yeah, I don't hate anyone enough to make them watch an August Underground movie.
Let's make him watch Death Squad Service.
Oh God. Oh no.
Yeah, well, with that, I'm going to go throw up and...
What?
Well, thank you, everybody, for listening. We will be back with episode 54 in a short time. Let's say bye to our listeners.
Bye. Ciao.
Adios, folks.
Magneto and Green Goblin and Cyrus the Virus.
George of the Jungle and the dread cinematographer Roberts.
Yeah. As you wish.